The plane wheels touched down at Sheremetyevo Airport, and boom, I was in Moscow, just like that. One minute I'm watching tons of cat videos high up in the sky, the next, I'm in Russia. My first thought, wow, it's an airport. But then, the doors opened with a whoosh, and the air hit me. It wasn't super cold like in the movies, which was a nice surprise for early June. It was just different. A new kind of air, probably full of adventure, or maybe just airplane fuel. I was ready for it. Or so I thought, until I saw the signs. Walking into the terminal was like stepping onto the set of a spy movie, but with better Wi-Fi. Everything was big, everything was fancy, and everything, absolutely everything, was written in these beautiful, weird squiggles. Cyrillic, of course I knew about Cyrillic, in my head, but seeing it everywhere on signs for Vykhod, exit, and toilet, toilet, was a whole other level of, oh, I am definitely not in my hometown anymore. My brain, usually pretty good with languages, just went, nope, we're on vacation for this one. It was like trying to read a doctor's messy handwriting, but for a whole country. I held my passport super tight like it was the last slice of pizza on earth. My mission, if I chose to take it, was to find where to pick up my luggage. Sounds easy, right? Wrong. In a sea of Cyrillic, every arrow looked like it was pointing to a secret spy room. Or maybe just more shops. The announcements echoed in Russian, a language that sounds super important, even when they're probably just saying a plane is leaving for some city. I just smiled and nodded at anyone who looked at me, hoping I looked less lost than I felt. It was a special kind of confused excitement. The huge size of the place was something else. Long hallways, tall ceilings, and people walking with a clear purpose. I, on the other hand, was walking very without purpose, mostly in circles. I tried to match the letters on my paper from the airline with the letters on the signs. It was a slow, hard job. Like a little kid learning to read, but with the added stress of possibly losing my luggage, which had all my clean socks. The stakes were high. This was my first 10 minutes in Russia, and already it felt like an adventure. A slightly confusing but definitely exciting adventure. Passport control. Those two words can make any traveler sweat a little. The line moved slowly, and I watched the serious-faced officers in their neat uniforms. They looked like they could stare a hole through a concrete wall. When it was my turn, I handed over my passport with a slightly shaky hand. The officer flipped through it, looked at me, looked at the picture, looked back at me. I tried my best, I am a harmless tourist, smile. He stamped my passport with a satisfying thud, handed it back and said something in Russian. I just smiled wider and said, "Spasibo," one of the two Russian words I knew. He almost smiled back. Progress. Getting my luggage was less dramatic, luckily. My suitcase, a bright blue monster, was easy to spot. It came rolling along the conveyor belt, looking as relieved as I felt. Pulling it towards customs, I got ready for more checking, but it was surprisingly chill. A wave of the hand, and I was through. I was officially in Russia, past the gates. Now, to find my ride. My friend Katya had arranged for someone to pick me up. I looked through the crowd of people holding signs. John Smith? No. International Group of Cheese Lovers? Definitely not me. Then I saw it. A small sign with my name spelled wrong in a cute way. The man holding the sign was named Yuri. He had a kind smile that made little lines around his eyes. He didn't speak much English and my Russian was, well, only spasibo and da. But somehow, with lots of pointing, hand movements and good-natured laughter, we talked. He helped me with my bag, and it was my first real taste of Russian friendliness. Not the fake customer service smile you get sometimes, but real warmth. It was a good feeling. It made the Cyrillic seem a little less scary, the airport a little less huge. As Yuri drove through Moscow traffic, which is a whole other adventure by the way, I looked out the window. The city was waking up. It wasn't the gray, gloomy Moscow from old spy movies. It was alive. Buildings with fancy designs, wide roads, and lots of green parks. Yuri would sometimes point at famous places and say their Russian names, and I'd nod excitedly, pretending I understood more than I did. This was it, my first real look at Russia. And already I was starting to feel a connection, a feeling of welcome that was more than just words. My trip had truly begun. I arrived at Katya's apartment, a cozy place buzzing with pre-party energy. Jet lag was definitely knocking on my brain's door, but the excitement was a stronger coffee. Katya greeted me with a huge hug, and introduced me to her friends, Lena and Sasha. They were all smiles and fast Russian, sometimes switching to English for me, which I really liked. They immediately made me feel like part of the group. No awkward silences here, just a whirlwind of talking and laughing. This was the famous Russian hospitality I'd heard about, and it was just as good as people said. Then came the old question, what do I wear to this party? Back home, my party clothes usually mean jeans and a shirt I haven't spilled coffee on yet, but this was a Russian party. I imagined needing a fur hat and a fancy dress, or maybe something with glitter, lots of glitter. My suitcase had only a few choices. I held up a pair of jeans. Katya, Lena, and Sasha looked at each other. It is casual, Lena said nicely, which I think is Russian for you cannot be serious. They were all dressed very nicely, looking cool without trying. I suddenly felt very American. Sasha, always ready to fix things, dove into Katya's closet. We find something, she said. After a few funny tries, a dress that was too sparkly even for my imagined glitter amount, and a shirt that made me look like a lost member of a 90s boy band, we settled on a smart dark shirt and some slightly less casual pants. Lena even taught me how to say "Okin krasivo," very beautiful, which I immediately tried on a nearby houseplant. They laughed, a warm, real sound that made me feel even more welcome. My Russian words were slowly growing, one funny mispronunciation at a time. Getting ready together was half the fun. There was music playing, stories being shared, mostly in Russian, but Katya would tell me the main points, and a general feeling of excitement. I felt like I was getting a sneak peek into everyday life in Moscow beyond the tourist brochures. It wasn't just about the clothes, it was about being together, the shared excitement. By the time we were ready to go, I didn't just have slightly better clothes, I had new friends, and a strong feeling that this night was going to be something special. My jet lag was still there, but now it had a party to look forward to. Before heading out for our big Moscow night tour and the party, Katya insisted we needed a little something. This little something turned out to be a mini feast laid out on her kitchen table. My eyes got wide. This wasn't just a snack, this was a food welcome party. There were small open-faced sandwiches called buterbrody, some with sausage, some with cheese. There were pickles, which I learned are a very serious thing in Russia. And then, there they were. Little pockets of pure happiness, pelmeni, Russian dumplings. My life was about to change. Katya explained they were meat dumplings, often served with sour cream or butter. You must try, she said, her eyes sparkling. I was a bit unsure. New country, new food, but one bite, and oh my goodness, it was like a warm hug from the inside. Savory, soft, delicious. I think I made an audible sound because everyone chuckled. He likes pelmeni, Sasha announced, as if I'd just found a basic truth of the universe, which, in a way, I had. Pelmeni, where have you been all my life? I was already planning how to sneak a lifetime supply back to the States. Then came the Blini thin pancakes, served with jam and more sour cream. Because apparently sour cream is the answer to everything in Russia. And I wasn't complaining, the Blini were light and sweet, a perfect match for the savory pelmeni. I was eating my way through Russian food, one delightful dish at a time and loving every second. They also offered me kvass, a traditional drink made from fermented rye bread. My honest first thought, it tasted interesting. Like a less sweet, slightly sour soda with a hint of bread. It wasn't bad, just very different. I managed a polite sip which earned me approving nods. I learned about Zakuski, the amazing spread of Russian appetizers that go with drinks and talks. It's not just about eating, it's about sharing, talking, and enjoying the moment. This pre-party meal was more than just food, it was an introduction, a cultural dive through taste. I was finding out that Russian food was filling, tasty, and made with a lot of love. My stomach was happy, my taste buds were thrilled, and I was even more excited for the night ahead. If the food was this good, imagine the party. With our bellies full of pelmeni and our hearts full of excitement, we went out into the Moscow night. Katya had a plan, a quick tour of the city's best spots before the party. I thought I was ready for Red Square. I mean, I'd seen pictures, TV shows, all that stuff, but nothing, absolutely nothing can get you ready for seeing it in person, especially at night. We came out of the subway station and there it was, huge, massive, and just totally amazing. The sheer size of it hit me first. It's not just a square, it's a big statement. A huge open space that has seen hundreds of years of history. And then, the lights. Oh, the lights. The gum department store along one side of the square was lit up like a magical castle, its front sparkling with thousands of tiny lights. It looked like something from a fairy tale. Right across from it, Lenin's mausoleum stood quiet and grand. And at the far end, the main attraction, St. Basil's Cathedral. If you asked a child to draw the most magical, colorful, fun castle they could imagine, they'd probably draw St. Basil's. Its onion-shaped dome swirled with bright colors and patterns, poked into the night sky. It didn't look real. It looked like a giant delicious candy creation. I just stood there, mouth slightly open, trying to take it all in. My friends were watching my reaction, smiling. "Well?" Katya asked. "It's wow," I managed, which felt like a huge understatement. "It's like stepping into a history book, but way more sparkly." I tried to take pictures, but my phone camera felt, I don't know, totally not good enough. How do you capture that kind of greatness? That feeling of being a tiny speck in front of such huge history and beauty. You just can't. You have to be there, feel the cool night air, hear the far-off city sounds, and let it all wash over you. We walked across the cobblestones, which, by the way, are not kind to slightly wrong party shoes, but honestly, I didn't care. Every angle gave a new view, a new wow moment. The State Historical Museum, a grand red brick building, guarded one end of the square, looking like something from a Russian epic story. There weren't huge crowds, just a few other people enjoying the atmosphere. It felt surprisingly peaceful for such a famous place. Red Square at night wasn't just a tourist spot, it was an experience, a truly unforgettable introduction to the heart of Moscow. Our next stop on this fast pre-party tour was the Kremlin. We didn't go inside, that's a whole day trip by itself, but we walked along its huge red walls. Lit up against the dark sky, they seemed to glow with an old power. Katya pointed out the different towers, each with its own name and story. Spasskaya Tower, with its famous clock, chimed in the distance. It was easy to imagine old kings and leaders walking these grounds, history echoing in every stone. It felt a bit like the Kremlin was whispering its secrets to the night. From the grandness of the Kremlin, we took a short ride to Arbat Street. The feeling changed completely. If Red Square was about grand history, Arbat Street was about artistic charm and lively energy. It's one of Moscow's oldest streets, now a walking area full of artists drawing funny pictures, musicians playing soulful songs, and sellers offering all sorts of souvenirs, from traditional nesting dolls to cool modern crafts. It was a lively, colorful river of people, sounds, and sights. I loved the difference right away. It showed another, more personal side of Moscow. I found myself laughing at some of the artists making tourists' faces look funny with amazing speed and accuracy. There were painters showing their moody Moscow scenes and musicians whose passionate performances drew small, happy crowds. I was tempted to buy a ridiculously big, fuzzy hat, just for fun, but my friends smartly guided me away. "Maybe later," Katya said, probably saving me from a lifetime of bad fashion choices. We looked through the souvenir stalls, admiring the fancy shiny boxes and hand-painted nesting dolls. Each one seemed to tell a little story. The energy of Arbat Street was contagious. It felt like a place where creativity bloomed, where people came to show themselves and to enjoy the atmosphere. There were cozy-looking cafes and busy bars, their windows glowing warmly, letting light and laughter spill onto the street. It was a fantastic change of pace after the huge scale of Red Square and the Kremlin. It reminded me that a city isn't just its famous landmarks, it's also its people, its art, its everyday life. And Moscow, I was quickly learning, had a whole lot of life to offer. The party was still to come, but Moscow was already winning me over, big time. Finally, it was time. The main event. The real Russian party I'd flown thousands of miles for. We arrived at an apartment building that looked pretty normal from the outside. But the moment Katya's friend Olga opened the door to her apartment, a wave of warmth, music, and laughter washed over us. It was like stepping into a different world, one powered by good feelings and the promise of an amazing night. The apartment wasn't huge, but it was packed with people, all chatting, smiling, and holding drinks. My first feeling was a mix of excitement and a tiny bit of, oh wow, lots of new faces and Russian words. The welcome was immediate and incredibly real. Olga, our hostess, gave me a big hug, saying loudly, "Our American guest, welcome, welcome." Suddenly I was the center of attention in a good way. Everyone wanted to say hello, to ask where I was from, what I thought of Moscow. Their English was different for everyone, from perfect to just a few excited phrases, but the effort everyone made to talk was amazing. I felt less like a stranger and more like a long-lost cousin they were so happy to finally meet. There was no awkwardness, just an open, friendly curiosity. The apartment itself was cozy and inviting, decorated with a few party touches. The air smelled of good food and something subtly flowery, maybe perfume or fresh flowers. Music played in the background, a mix of Russian pop I'd never heard but found surprisingly catchy, and some familiar international songs that got everyone nodding along. People were mixing easily, moving between a living room full of comfy seats and a kitchen that was clearly the heart of the party, overflowing with food and drinks. It felt like a gathering of old friends, even though I'd just met most of them. I was handed a drink almost right away. I chose juice, saving myself for the long night ahead, and quickly found myself pulled into conversations. People were eager to share stories about their city, their culture, and to hear about mine. There was so much laughter. I might not have understood all the jokes, especially the ones told fast in Russian, but laughter is a language everyone understands, right? The atmosphere was so catching, so full of good energy, that any lingering jet lag or shyness just disappeared. This was it. I was at a real Russian party and it already felt amazing. As the night went on, the energy only got higher. Someone turned up the music and suddenly, the living room turned into a dance floor. Now, I'm not exactly a great dancer. My moves are usually saved for when I'm home alone, and even then my cat looks like he's judging me. But the excitement was catching. People were dancing with such joy. A mix of modern moves and at one point, what looked like a very energetic folk dance that involved a lot of clapping and foot stomping. Katya and Lena pulled me into the fun, and I did my best to keep up, probably looking like a confused octopus, but having an absolute blast. Then came the games. I wasn't sure what to expect, but Russians, it turns out, take their party games seriously in the most fun way possible. There was a game involving passing a pretend hot potato, I think it was an orange, under our chins, which led to a lot of laughter and almost bumping into each other. Another was a game like charades where people acted out Russian movie titles or famous people. My tries to guess or act were met with encouraging cheers and friendly teasing. It didn't matter if you were good at the games. What mattered was joining in and sharing the laughter, and then, the toasts. Oh, the toasts. This is a super important part of any Russian gathering, and it's something truly special. It wasn't just a quick cheers. Someone would stand up, glass raised, and give a heartfelt, often funny, and sometimes very deep speech. Toasts were made to friendship, to love, to the hosts, to the guests, yes, even to our American friend trying pelmeni for the first time, to future adventures, to everything good in life. Each toast was met with a group za vas, to you, or budem zdorovi, to our health, followed by the clinking of glasses. It was a beautiful tradition, full of realness and warmth. I even managed to give a small, slightly nervous toast myself, thanking everyone for being so incredibly welcoming, and for making me feel so at home. I think I said something about how Moscow was much friendlier than the spy movies suggested, which got a good laugh. The amount of real connection in that room was clear. It wasn't just a party, it was a celebration of being together. We danced more, talked more, laughed until our sides hurt. I learned a few more Russian words, mostly excited shouts, and taught my new friends a few English slang terms. It was a perfect exchange. As the early morning light began to peek in, the party started to slow down. People hugged, exchanged phone numbers, and promised to meet again. I felt a wonderful kind of tiredness, the kind that comes after a night filled with pure, amazing joy. Saying goodbye to my new friends felt like saying goodbye to family. There were so many warm handshakes, heartfelt spasibos, and real invitations to come back soon. Olga, our kind host, gave me another big hug and made me promise to send her pictures from my travels. The sincerity was overwhelming in the best way possible. Walking back to Katya's place in the quiet dawn, with the city slowly waking up, I thought about the night. It was more than just a party. It was a deep experience, 100 feelings, 1,000 smiles, and countless moments of connection. I'd arrived in Moscow with a suitcase full of clothes and a head full of old ideas, mostly from old movies. I was leaving that party with a heart full of warmth and a completely new way of seeing things. The Russia I had experienced was lively, welcoming, and full of people who knew how to celebrate life with open arms and generous hearts. I felt a huge sense of thanks. Thanks for Katya and her friends for their kindness and for sharing their world with me. Thanks for every laugh, every dance move, no matter how clumsy, every toast, and every delicious bite of pelmeni. This trip wasn't just about seeing famous buildings, it was about connecting with people, experiencing their culture firsthand, and realizing that despite our different languages or backgrounds, we're all looking for the same things: friendship, laughter, and a good party. Moscow had given me all of that, and more. As I finally crawled into bed, the sun painting the sky, I knew this wasn't just a one-time adventure. Moscow had charmed me, surprised me, and made me feel totally at home. The stereotypes I might have had were broken, replaced by memories of real warmth and incredible fun. So, To anyone out there dreaming of travel, of trying something new, go for it. Open your mind, open your heart, and you might just find yourself at a Russian party making memories that will last a lifetime. As for me, Moscow, I'll be back. That's a promise. And next time, I'm bringing a bigger appetite for pelmeni.